Hey everyone, so picking up right where we left off, we mentioned in the last video that in this video we are going to create a system that tracks how many tiles are remaining that need to be changed, and when all tiles have been changed, that is the level complete status. Now, I mentioned using tags on the individual tiles to determine what their status is as far as have they changed, how many times have they changed, and I realized that by using tags, it's going to require a whole lot of if-then statements checking the current value of the tag and then assigning a new value to the tag. So why do all that when we can just let simple subtraction and addition do the work for us? So rather than using tags, we're going to use a variable assigned to the tile, and that when QBert lands on the tile, we simply subtract 1 from the current value, and if the value equals 0, then the global variable that tracks the total gets reduced by 1. And then say QBert lands on that tile again, well, 0 gets reduced by 1 again. It's -1. It doesn't equal 0, and therefore the global value won't be changed again. This also works for when we have to jump on a tile 2 or 3 or 4 times. So we just keep increasing the starting value, and it also takes care of the issue with this top tile, because what we can do is we can just set this top tile, the variable that we're going to create, we increase its value by 1. So QBert lands on it at the beginning, reduces it to 1. Now its value will match every other value. So 3 birds with 1 stone, actually. So let's go ahead and go to our tiles script. So we open that up. And what we're going to do, in the public class section, but above start, we're going to create a variable. So public int, and we need to give it a name. So we could do like color status, something like that. Color status, because it's not just going to be yes or no, it's an integer. So we save that. So this is attached to all tiles, so now all tiles have access to this variable, but just to be clear, it is not a static variable, so this variable is unique to each and every tile. So what we're going to do, we're going to click on this top tile here. Since it's a public variable, we can change it here. So just his or its value will get changed to 2. So it's not QBert, it's the tile. So that way when QBert lands on this, this will be changed to 1, and all the other ones are already 1, and it will match that. So now what we're going to do, we now need to do just a little bit of math. So when the collision occurs, and again, right now this is not checking to see what's colliding with the tile. Eventually we'll have to modify this, but we really can't do that until we've created the enemy. So there's no point trying to make this future-proof. You create a system that lends itself to iteration. And if it doesn't, then you just uproot it and you recreate. So color status minus equals 1. So that means take the current value and minus 1 from it. So we always want to minus 1. If color status equals, got to do 2 equals when you're checking. If it equals 0, then we do this. Now, that really won't make much of a difference for what we see other than the top tile. I don't think we really need to run it just to see that change. But now we need our global value to also get changed in here. So let's go ahead and create a new script. You can create, usually when you have variables such as static variables, and you have functionality that's not necessarily assigned to any one object so much as the overall game flow, then what you can do is you can create a script and attach it to an otherwise unused object, and that way the script is executing from there rather than from any of the actual in-game objects that are in play that might get deleted or whatever. So game object, and we could just do create empty, and we just got to rename this to GM. So again, there's absolutely nothing special about a GM object. You're calling it GM for your benefit and your benefit alone. It means nothing to Unity. This is just going to hold the new script. So C#, and we'll call this game flow because that's, like I said, is what it's going to do. And then we open it. So here is where we have to create the static variable. In fact, I'm just going to delete these two remark lines. When you see that double /, it's a remark, which means it's not executed. You can use it for documentation, or you can use it to hold code that you're temporarily suspending for some reason. Has no functional use. It's just documentation. So above start, above update, but within the public class, we're going to do public static int, and it's going to be remaining, if I could spell, remaining tiles. And it's going to set to 28. So we are actually incredibly close to having this system in place already. Now we just have to reduce this when a tile changes, and then put in an if statement that says what to do when this is reached. So actually, let's do that. In the update section, let's just do if remaining tiles equals 0, then we want something to happen. Debug.log, quote, you win. So that's just going to show up in the debug log. In other words, we need that to test that this is actually working. Since we don't actually have a screen that says you won or, go to the next level, we need to test this somehow. So you'll probably find yourself doing this a lot, putting in a debug log just so you know something's working. Also, what you can do is we could do debug log and just put this in there to see that it's changing. Okay, so now what we need to do is we need to reduce that. So if color status is equal to 0, then we need to do game flow dot remaining tiles minus equals 1. So that should look familiar. We just looked at that. It's saying take this variable, whatever it's equal to, minus 1 from it. Now, because it's a static variable, we have to declare where it is, whereas this is a variable specific to this object. We don't have to, whereas this, we're reaching out to another document. We're reaching out, to another script and pulling it in from there. Okay, so color status should start at 1. When a collision occurs, it gets reduced to 0. If it's equal to 0, then remaining tiles get reduced by 1, and the color changes. The next time the tile gets land on, it will be -1, and therefore none of this occurs. I think we can run this now. Okay, so let's go ahead and attach the script, and let's run it. So that didn't change, so far so good. So now we'll just, and my apologies, this is going to be a little bit slow. We don't really have like a turbo mode or anything yet, so That one changed. And it should appear down here. Perfect. So obviously we don't have a new scene to load, but that's the basic game. So it now checks how many have to be changed. It knows when you've reached the end. And the next step will probably be to add enemies. That's going to be a little bit trickier. There's probably a good AI to come up with, but the AI wasn't really fancy back then. For instance, a lot of the enemies would just drop down, kind of like a slinky. So you'd have like a blob that would drop, drop, drop. And it may not just go down the side, it may kind of go back and forth, weave back and forth. So that we can do through randomization, just using a random number generated to determine does it drop left or does it drop right. Now, the ones that actually track you will be a little bit harder, and I'm not going to speculate until we get there. I don't want to put my thumb on the scale and be wrong yet again. But we'll come up with some rudimentary way of having the snake, that's the one that chased you, having him run around. But for now, and a brief splice there, I had some audio issues, so sorry about that. You probably just noticed this appear down here. This is just me saving the scene. So to do that, you just go up to File, choose Save or Save As, and name the scene. That's actually essential for the final task that we're going to do in this video. So I just mentioned that we don't have another level to load, but what you can do is reload the same level, so at least you see how level loading works, and then once you create a second level, you just got to swap out the name for the new level you've created. So once you've saved the level, you need to go up to File, Build Settings, and you need to add it up here. So this is going to be included in the final build when you turn this into an executable file. You would just need to delete anything that you don't want up here or add new levels as you've created them. And you can also use it in this case for testing, because the command that we're going to use only works if the scenes are in here. Okay, so you save the scene, add it to the build settings menu, and then what we're going to do, we are going to go back to our game flow menu, our game flow script, my apologies. Have to reopen it because, like I said, I had some audio issues, so I had to restart. So outside of the public class, we need to add a new line up here. So using Unity Engine dot scene management and then a semicolon. Because if we don't do that, it won't understand the commands that we're about to use. So right now we say that if remaining tiles is equal to 0, display this on the screen and then really nothing else. What we're going to do is we're going to say that we want Unity to reload this scene. Now, what we're going to do though is typically when you're at the end of a level, you don't just automatically load the scene. You have some kind of screen that says, well done, here's your stats, how long it took, any bonus. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a delay. That way it's not jarring. It doesn't just suddenly load the scene and they think that it crashed. So outside of start, outside of update, but within the public class, IE numerator, and then we name it. And we could go just call this load next level with parentheses, squiggly brackets, and then it will be yield return new. Now, typically I like to explain what every line every word does. Don't worry too much about those. You do need to include them, but really what you need to focus on is this. Wait 4 seconds. So we're going to say how long we want the application to wait, measured in seconds, before it then performs the task that we want it to do. We'll just do 4 since there's really nothing for them to see. It's not like there's a scene complete menu or anything or a tally. So this is just for demonstrative purposes. Okay, so now this is the command that I was talking about. So scene manager dot load scene, and I named it level 1. And then up here, this does not execute automatically. You have to say when it gets executed. So we want this to execute when remaining tiles equals 0. And so we just say start coroutine, parenthesis, and then the name of that coroutine we just created, including its parentheses. So again, when remaining tiles equals 0, we still display uWin like we normally did, and then it starts this coroutine. It comes down here because you just told it to. It waits 4 seconds and then loads level 1. So once you create new levels, this is the only thing you're going to have to replace, this one line. All this other functionality, this all stays the same. The only thing you would change is what level is being loaded. Okay, so that should now run, and that should now work. Let me just double check. Yeah, because this is the step I usually forget to do. I create the coroutine and then I forget to reference it. All right, so this is going to take probably, I don't know, minute or so to color in the blocks. So my apologies. Maybe you could just like skip ahead in the video. Or I mean, I suppose you could just take my word for it, but I like to demonstrate that it actually works. Oops, wrong way. Wanted that one. And there we go. So that should do it. And actually, I did make one mistake. See how he bumped like that? Do you know why he's doing that? Because it's reloading, reloading, reloading. And the reason for it reloading is because this does not get reset. So we just need to reset that. So basically, before you load the new scene, you just set remaining tiles back to 28. I'm not going to run it again. We saw that it worked. So even though you reload the scene, the static variables do not reset. So that should do it. If there's any features you want to see, just let me know. But like I said, I've already kind of mapped out what the next couple videos will look like. Okay, so I hope that you found this helpful and have a good day.